Hi guys, I'm the Barber Coach, and today I'm going to be speaking with Josh from Westwoods Barbers in Ripon, North Yorkshire. Josh has a salon with 4 barbers there, and today we're going to be discussing how to best set up training courses or training days to help develop your team and your staff. So, Josh, how are you? You good?
I'm all right, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right.
Stuff.
Okay,
Good.
so just a little sort of introduction now then. So, how long's your salon been going for?
We opened in September 2019, so there were just myself when we opened, and then we employed first member of staff in the October, so a month or so later. And yeah, going since then. Avoided COVID, just dodged that one, and then gone
Yeah,
on
Mark.
since. Yeah,
That's much. So you've opened that literally just before the storm of COVID-19, really, haven't you?
pretty much September, and then obviously it was a March, wasn't it, when we shut down 23rd or something. And then yeah, so just to say, got going, getting good, getting a good customer base in, getting busy, and then so yeah,
Yeah, great
thankfully
that
it
was,
was.
wasn't it? How long did it take you to start getting busy again? 'Cause I found that after sort of the second lockdown, everyone was just sort of they got used to cutting their own hair. Maybe some people were still too anxious to go back to the barber shop. Some people had grown their hair out and they were keeping their hair long. And I did find a dip off in business. How did you find it?
We were lucky, so I'd because I had nothing else to do. I was putting sort of regular like Facebook videos on, catching up, and like just not even talking about haircutting, just talking about all sorts really, just to try and keep in touch with customers because it was the only way I could think to
Yeah,
do it. And when I opened the shop, it was just walk-ins, and I really wanted to get a booking system set up. So I kind of used the time during COVID to make sure to get the booking system set up, find the right platform, etc., etc. And then we settled on one, advertised it about a month before. Was it July where we opened?
yeah,
It was 4th of July, I think, wasn't it? So advertised it on sort of the start of June, and put it on the social medias and everything, and put some flyers on the. I went to the shop and stuck some flyers on the window and everything. And thankfully, when we opened back up, we were fully booked from day one, which was
good.
brilliant because everyone was organised. There were some local barbers that had queues down the street, but we were flat out all day. But it was just one in, one out, so the social distancing was fine. And thankfully, it went absolutely fine, and we've been busy since, which is yeah, long may it continue as
Good,
well.
mate. A lot of people haven't had that experience. They've struggled a lot. So you're obviously doing something right. That's really good. All right. So there's 4 of you in your salon, in your barber shop. I keep saying salon because I teach a lot of hairdressers. It just makes it easier, you know.
And I
But
like
in your barber shop, there's 4 of you. So in a little bit of a catch up, you told me that you've got an apprentice, you've got someone who's got a hairdressing background, who's been in the industry for years. And then you've got a chap then called Mark who's been in the game for 18 months. So what is your plan with regards to training courses? What are you hoping to achieve? Why do you feel like there's a need for it? Tell me a little bit about what your objective is with regards to this meeting today.
so going forward. Obviously you want your customers to remain happy, which is a good thing, but I think finding staff nowadays and retaining staff's dead hard. And I like the idea of if someone comes to work for me, because at the moment all my staff are employed. Um, I like the idea if someone comes to work for me, they don't feel like they're being put behind a chair and just left alone for good. I want people to feel like they can come to work for me and constantly get better. When I've worked, and I think we've all worked for people before, where you feel like you get put behind a chair, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with the company you're working for. The boss might be nice and the shop might be nice, but you just feel like that's it. You feel like, apart from a few YouTube videos and things like that, nobody's looking out for you. Nobody's kind of asking where you want to improve and where you want to get better. And I really don't want anyone who works for me to ever feel like that. I want them to feel like that I'm bothered about them progressing as well.
That's good.
Um, so that's the main idea. And what I wanted to do is do a regular training day where I kind of just shut the shop and maybe once a month close the shop for a day and do some proper training. But the problem is how to structure that and how to make a day of that without wasting the day, without just kind of going over and over the same thing. Tailoring that to people of different abilities, and also, well, yeah, just not wasting it. Really making sure that people go away from the training day feeling like they've actually achieved something. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of a day's work in the shop, isn't it?
Feeling like you're investing in them and really, concerned about their development, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and my own as well. Because I think having taken on apprentice, I mean, you know what it's like when you take on trainees. I feel like teaching him has made me learn again. If you know what I mean, it's
Yeah,
taken me
right.
back
Yeah,
to when I started and think, bloody hell, I actually struggled with that. I remember when I struggled with that, and I haven't thought about that for years. And I kind of like the teaching side because then that makes me think more. So me in the process of developing a lesson or putting a lesson plan together, hopefully that means I get something out of that as well. So then I can learn, and then going forward, hopefully everyone feels like they're actually developing.
That's good, and you will. And when you're sharing your knowledge and your experience with other people, you're actually sharpening your own ability as well. So it's good. You will see yourself improve when you're trying to help other people improve. Okay, that's really, really good, mate. I like your sort of spin on that, and the fact that you want your staff to feel like you do care about them and you want to just continue to help them grow and things. That's really, really nice. That is, because at the end of the day, you've got to sacrifice money to do this. And people don't realize that. Do you know what I mean? You're giving up a day of profit from your cuts, from your barber's cuts and things, to spend the time teaching them. So it's a costly investment, but it's going to be worth it long term for their morale and for their ability as well as yours. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how I structure my courses and why. So I'm hoping this will give you sort of an idea then of how to organize your training sessions more effectively. And I'm just going to touch on quickly the sort of training you need to be given, okay? So you've obviously got a broad range of abilities. You've got someone who's completely new to it, someone who's been in the game for a long time but has come from a hairdressing background, and someone who's probably, 18 months in, so comfortably cutting but still learning, as we all are. Do you know what I mean? But there's a broad range of sort of abilities there. So then you're going to be asking, well, how do I then pick the right subject that's going to suit them all? But the truth is, whether one person's really good at skin fading and then one person's really bad at skin fading, there's pointless just doing a course for one person and not the other, because you still find the one who's really good at it may learn something new, or they, through, like you just mentioned, through helping teach other people, will also improve again. So when you're doing courses where maybe one person is stronger than another person, you can always then utilize that as a training technique where you can ask that person then to support the other person with their learning. And believe it or not, you're actually supporting both of them because they're both developing and getting better.
Yeah.
So you're sort of supervising the training course, but not necessarily giving all the direct training. So you set the course up as I'm about to tell you. And then when they then go to the section where they apply their own skills, if one of them obviously applies the skills really, really well and the other person's struggling, afterwards then you can ask that person, right, well, can you move across to so-and-so and help them with their training? Because you will gain more from it by actually seeing how much you do know and the experience you do have by telling someone else. And that's making them better as well as the person they're helping. So everyone's still going to get something from whatever subject you bring to the table, regardless what their experience is. Okay, so never put yourself off thinking, I'm not going to bother doing skin fades, because they all do that every day. They're pretty good at this. It's pointless us refreshing that. No, always do it. Always do it. But to be effective and to be efficient, it's important to set up courses that's going to benefit your business the quickest. So for instance, say they do skin fades 10 times a day each, for instance, right? And they're good enough at it, but you still think they need improvement, okay? But you think, they don't do any scissor cutting at all. Maybe they'll only do one scissor cut a week or a fortnight. So we need to focus on scissor cuttings. They're not very good at it. But when you got to stop and ask yourself, at the end of the day, you're running a business to, one, serve the community, but two, to make money, isn't it? Let's be honest. So what you don't want to do is invest your time and efforts into teaching them scissor cutting if they're still not perfect at skin fading. Because skin fading is your bread and butter. Do you know what I mean? If you've got, if they're all doing 6 to 7 out of 10 short back and sides, and you think, it's good enough, and they're doing sort of 6 or 7 out of 10 skin fades, you think, it's good enough, then it's pointless you moving on to teach them scissor cuts where they're not really going to be doing it that often, when you could get more out of their skin fades, because that's something you're going to need on a day-to-day basis. So like, for instance, say they're, I don't know, their average of skin fading, for instance, right? And they could potentially be losing you business. But you think, because they do it every day, you don't want to teach them to suck eggs. You want them to learn something they haven't done before. So you want to make them feel like, there's relevance. So you try and teach them scissor cuts. But if they're only doing one scissor cut a month and they lose every person that comes in who wants a scissor cut, you're not really losing that much. But if you're losing 2 or 3 people a day because the skin fading isn't that good enough, that then becomes expensive. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So always focus on your bread and butter first. Now, if I'm teaching someone from scratch, if I'm teaching like a team of apprentices in a college, then that's different. You start off, you use the doll's heads effectively. You start off with long hair. and then you slowly then gradually get shorter and shorter and shorter. So, you know, there's no reason why, you know, you guys couldn't get mannequin heads each, and then maybe, you know, once a month do sessions on it or something. But before you focus on that, I would focus on the bread and butter. So just go back to what I was saying. If I was to teach you someone from scratch, you get them with a doll's head, you get them used to working with long hair, handling long hair. Then you get them used to sectioning and clipping up long hair. Then you get them used to doing a one length cut. And then you get used to doing a layered haircut. And then that just gradually gets shorter and shorter until they move on to the clipper work and onto the skin fading. And that's how the industry wants it to be taught. If you're following like the City and Guilds and the NVQ structures and all the college structures, that's how they want it to be taught. And I think it's important that it is taught that way, because there is a lot of barbers today who can't do your basic scissor cuts and your long haircuts. I get that. But for yourself, who's not teaching 20 apprentices or 20 like beginners in college students, you're teaching a team who are already charging customers and making money, then you need to start focusing on the bread and butter stuff to make sure you secure the majority of your business, which it sounds like you are. But you want to take your barbers from a 6 or 7 out of 10 of skin fade into an 8 or a 9 out of 10, and your short back and sides, you know, maybe they're fantastic at skin fading, and maybe they're fantastic at your short back and sides, your bread and butter cuts, but maybe it's taking them 45 minutes to do it. So then you need to be focusing on, well, what are they doing too much of? Why are they taking so long? What can we be, you know, speeding up in this process to help them get, do you mean, more efficient with their work?
Yeah.
So always focus on your bread and butter business before you go into anything too technical, you know, like the long hair layers, the patterns, tram lines, you know, anything too creative. Get your bread and butter sorted first, okay? So I'm going to discuss how I structure my courses, and then we can discuss then how we can potentially find out from your staff what they need to improve on and things. But I would definitely recommend doing one subject in each session, okay? So this is how I structure my courses, okay? So with learning, there's 3 stages to learning, all right? Now, the first, we'll do it in thirds. So the first quarter, or the first third, I should say, 30% of your learning comes from hearing. So I always start off doing 1 hour theory at the start of any training course. So I'll do a 1 hour theory, and we'll discuss the subject, we'll discuss the topic. So for instance, if we're teaching a fading workshop, at the start of the fading workshop, I'll do 1 hour on breaking down a fade, explaining why I do the fade this way, how I do the fade, you know, and asking questions from your team, asking if they understand, you know, for instance, so I got blend zones, fade zones, and skin zones. So I'll be asking people like, okay, so when you do a blend zone, why would you start with a 2 guard? And it'd be a case of, oh, well, because, you know, you get to remove the bulk first and set the shape. It's easier to do that with a 2 than it is with a 1, because the teeth and the comb are bigger, etc. So you just get involved and interactive for the first hour, discussing the topic. And that then sets a foundation for their learning. They then they feel a little bit less anxious. They sort of know then the plan moving forward. You've explained to them what the day is going to entail. You know, at the start, we're going to discuss it, we're going to talk about it, and then you move on to phase 2. So they're already feeling relaxed. They've already heard a bit more. So there may be terminology they weren't familiar with, like, I don't know, guard skipping, or refining a fade, point cutting a fade, cornering, drop fades, mid fades. There could be terminology they're not familiar with. Well, you want to cover all that at the start, so everyone's got a clear idea then of how they move forward throughout the rest of the day. Otherwise, if they're not sure what's coming next, they're always going to feel slightly anxious, because it's natural when you put someone into like a learning environment, they feel like a kid again. They get maybe all the bad anxieties you get in school and all the fears in school. So you've got to try and ease that anxiety, basically. You've got to relax them and just give them a good understanding of what we're going to be doing moving forward. And that then allows them to prepare their mind and their focus for the rest of the course, right? So stage 2 of the course, then you demonstrate. So they have to hear first. There's hearing, and they gain 30% of the learning through hearing. Hearing about the topic, hearing about the terminology, hearing about the structure and the process. Then you go on to seeing. So seeing then allows you to start learning 60% of the subject that you're working on. So you then have to demonstrate. So if you want them to potentially improve their skin fading, and they're struggling with low fades, they take all their fades too high. So they're struggling with low fades. So then you need to demonstrate a process of low fading, and then talk them through that process. To explain to them, you know, why you're doing it this way, and when to do it like this, and where you're going to be doing it on the head, and explain to them why you're using this guard here, and why you're angling the clipper this way there, and really break down each step of what you're doing in the seeing section of your training course. So you've done the hearing, you've learnt about the structure of the course, and you've covered any sort of terminologies or things they may not be familiar with. So they're feeling more relaxed, more at ease. They're then watching you then apply what you've been talking about. So for me, because I break a fade down into 3 zones, at the start, I may even get a whiteboard and draw out a picture of a head, draw in the zones, and we'll discuss why each zone needs to be where they are, which guard goes into each zone. So they're familiar with what goes where now because you've done it in the theory, yeah? So when you go into the seeing then, when you're doing it in the demonstration, you have to then stick to your structure from the theory. You can't go saying in the theory, okay, so we start with the blend zone to remove the bulk and set the shape. And then we put the fade zone in, so we got the central point of the fade, so you can see if it's whether it's medium, high, low, etc. And then once your fade line's in, you know then you can skin down below it with a trimmer, and then you can fade up then with a 0.5 or a 1, right? You can't do that in your theory section at the start, and then when you go to do a demonstration, you put a skin line in first. Everyone then has lost everything that they've just had from the first session. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So you need to plan a structure of how you'd like to apply this fade method, follow that structure in our hearing, and then follow the same structure in the hour seeing. So then they can, when they're seeing you doing it, what they've heard then falls into place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then it starts to make sense. And they're like, oh, I know what you mean now by that blend part or the
Be
two going
consistent
up
with
to
what
there.
you're saying rather than just kind of
Exactly.
like going off. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just joining the dots then. It falls into place, like, do you know what I mean? So once they've all done that, and as you go in, it's important to keep them interactive. So it's important to ask them questions, because the best way you can help someone to learn is not by telling them the answer or telling them the knowledge, is asking them how they can get to the knowledge themselves. So if someone would say to you, like, well, what guard do you need? Why would you need to use a bigger guard on the blend than you would on the fade? I know this is a very easy, very simple example, but then you say to them, well, why do you think? What would happen if you use a lower guard higher up? Oh, I suppose it'd cut it a lot shorter. Yeah, okay. So what benefit do I get then by using a 2 guard? Well, the 2 guard's obviously thicker and the teeth are bigger, so it's easier to get to the bulk and it's easier to carve your shape in. Exactly. So it's important that as well as giving them information, you've got to get information from them. Because by getting them to think of the answers themselves, they won't forget. Then the penny will drop with them because they've actually taught themselves. Do you know what I mean? The learning process then will allow that subject to take hold in their minds and in their memory a lot better than you just saying, oh, you use a 2 for that and a 0 for that. Okay. And then 10 minutes later, they've forgotten. But if they've got to stop and go, there was you say to them, okay, well, tell me the guards you need in a fade zone. So you start the fade line maybe with a 0 and you blend it up into the 1 then with a half. Well, a 1 and the 2 is in the blend zone, and the trim and the foils in the skin zone. So you need a 0 and a half. Well, they've had to think about the answer there. But if you just say to them, the 0 goes here, the 0.5 goes there, and then you move on, they're not going to process that information. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to repeat myself again. So you start off with the hearing, and you set up a structure, and you make the structure clear to them. This will give them then a nice foundation and an understanding of what to expect throughout the day. You then go on to do the seeing. You follow your same structure as you demonstrate in the haircut, but also get your guys involved, ask them questions to keep them focused and to keep their attention on the subject, okay? And then you go on to the application. So you got your hearing, you got your seeing, and then you've got your doing. So in the application then, you want to set yourself maybe 2 hours apart, because when you're learning, your guys may do skin fades in 30 minutes. They may do it in 45 minutes. I don't know. But when you're learning and potentially someone's maybe trying a method they've not done before, and there may be moments where they may need you to come and help them or to reassure them, that then could take 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? So what you need to do is I'd probably set an hour apart for your hearing. I'd then give them 15 minutes then to have some refreshments, just so that they prepare themselves for the next part of the course. Because you'd be surprised how many people get anxious when it comes to learning, okay? So give them a moment to sort of compose themselves, or have a cigarette, or whatever they do, all right? Then you go on to the seeing, and you're doing the demonstration. That could take 2 hours, because although you could normally do a skin fade in 30 minutes, And if you're going to teach it, you think, okay, well, it may take me a little bit longer because I'm going to be talking. We'll call it 45 minutes. But then you've not accounted for people asking questions, or maybe potentially something going wrong. Or do you know what I mean? So I would always give 2 hours for a demonstration. And whatever model you're going to be using, you need to give them plenty of understanding that it's going to take 2 hours. You're going to have to be comfortable in the chair, you know? Because there'll be times you have to stop and show them a layout of the head without actually applying anything. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you apply, and then you talk about it. Then someone asks questions. Then you show another layout of the head. Well, I'm going to do this here. Here's my blend zone. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So that then goes from 30 minutes to an hour with questions and answers, hour and 15 minutes. Maybe your model needs to go to the toilet, so you got another 10, 15 minutes. You just give yourself 2 hours. You're not under pressure. If you finish early, have a longer break. Great. Once you've finished your seeing, give them an hour lunch, give them plenty of time to process what they've learned, plenty of time to discuss the topic that you're working on, and plenty of time to get energy in them, coffee in them, whatever it is they want to get in them, nicotine, before they go on to the doing. Because in that doing, everyone will need to have their own model. So it's going to cost you more money again, because every model you use that day will have to have a free haircut. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So what you need to do is, sorry, I'm jumping ahead here. So I'll just finish what I'm saying first. And then, so in the doing process, you have a 10-minute refresher, and you say, right, guys, we're going to be following the fade zones method, for example. So can someone just remind me now what the zones are? Oh, a blend zone, fade zone. Okay, fantastic. Well done. Okay, so now you've answered. Now let me ask somebody else. So what are the guards per zone? So you don't let the same person answer everything, because the other two aren't going to be learning then. He's obviously the SWAT that's learned everything, and the other two are just going to be happy to sit in the background and not get involved. Well, that's not going to help them, see? So you don't let the same person keep answering. So once the first person's answered, right, great. So don't you answer anymore for a minute. Okay, so you two now. So what guards do you need per zone? Oh, well, if you're doing a full skin fade, you start off in the blend zone, you use your 2s and your 1s. And then your fade zone is made up of your 0s and your 0.5s and your half guards. And then your lower part of the skin zone is made up of your trimmer and your foils. Okay, fantastic, great. Right, so why is it important to start on the blend zone first? Okay, you two can't answer now. Okay, what do you think? And if he's not sure, then go, right, does everybody else know? And you get them to do all the talking, because that's where they do the learning. They don't do the learning when you do all the talking. Do you get me?
Yeah.
It's got to be a back and forth. So do a little bit of a refresher so they know then, right, they're doing the blend zone first, they're removing the bulk, they're setting their shape. That's going to protect the hair on top, and that's going to give you the shape you need throughout the rest of the haircut. Then they're going to be applying the fade zones. They're going to be applying the fade zone first and not the skin zone, because it's easier then to fade down from that than fade up from that, or skin down and fade up. So you're just kind of quickly giving them an understanding of what we're doing moving forward, and then they go and apply it. And what you do to each one at the start, you can't watch every single step they do, but you always watch how they start, okay? So one thing I always put across, really, really important, that's really, really important, I put it across a lot in most of my courses, is communication. So at the start, in your theory bit at the start, you need to potentially talk a little bit about, well, how can you find out from the customer exactly what they want? How do you know that the fade you're going to give them is the fade they want? So you've got to be asking the right question. So when you're about to give the consultation, you want to be asking key questions like, you know, how do you style your hair? Where do you wear your hair? Do you like your blend heavy? Where do you like the fade to be? Where do you want to start seeing skin? So though it feels like you're up against it, you're busy, you think, oh, I've got time to have a 20-minute conversation. But in a training course, do things properly. Do you know what I mean? Because then you need to then watch that as they apply it on the doing stage. So with each person, say to them, don't start till I come to you. But once I've been with you and we're happy with how you're going to move forward, then you can start and I'll observe in the background. So for instance, you get Mark to start first. Everybody else can watch. And you say, right, Mark, start with your customer now as you would in the salon. So Mark would then need to go, hiya, mate. So what would you like today? Oh, I'd like to skin fade. Okay, no problem. How high do you like your skin fade? How do you like your blend to sit? And get him to have that interaction with the customer. It may feel a little bit like role play because you guys work together all the time, but this is where they start polishing up on some of their skills and techniques. And they think, oh, I don't normally ask this question. Maybe I should. Or I've made a mistake there before, and I've done that because I didn't ask the right questions. To still get them to do it. And then the customer in the chair will actually appreciate that, because they'll be able to see that you actually care, that you want to give them the style they want. And you're not just going to crack on like every other barber does and get you out in 20 minutes. So watch them have the consultation, watch them start the process, whether it's on the blend or however way you like to teach your fading. And then once you're happy with his techniques and methods and off he goes, say then you move on to the next one and you leave him carry on a bit. And if you know, I would always start with your strongest one, believe it or not, because when you get to your weakest one and you start off with them, they're going to need a lot more of your time. And then the strongest one may only need a little pointer here and there. Do you know what I mean? But if you start the weakest one, the other two could be waiting for a while before they get to start, but they're efficient enough to carry on. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So when you get to your weakest one, then Mark is potentially already going. He's ready set in the blend zone. He's discussing talking with a customer, you know. And then your newer one, then your apprentice, you may want to watch his method. You may want to watch how he holds the clipper, the angle of the clipper. You can really zone in on what he's doing, which maybe you didn't need to do with Mark, for example. Okay. And once you're happy with what he's doing, he said, right, so you just carry on doing the blend for now. Before you move on to the next phase, just give me a shout so I can just see what you're doing. Then you just pop to Mark and how are you getting on? Oh, blend looks good. Oh, you can take that bit a little bit higher. Comfortable? Okay, you carry on. And then you go to the other one. And you just, with the stronger ones, you just observe, ask a few questions, and maybe just point out a few things, but allow them to flow. Yeah. And then with your weaker one, then you tell the weaker one, then don't go on to the next phase until I come back to you. Because you can go back and go, right, okay, the blend is good. How did you find it? Okay, I think you've maybe taken this bit up a little bit too high. It's fine, we can work with it, but in future, focus on maybe keeping that a bit lower. And you can have that conversation with them and go, right, I want you to apply the fade line now. So can I watch where you apply the fade line? Where do you think you should start? Oh, I think I should start by here on the concave. Okay, great. Start on the concave. Let's watch your technique. Oh, hang on a second. You're a bit too flat to the head. Just tilt the teeth up a little bit, relax a bit, and just guide them. Because they're the weakest, they need all the support. And then, okay, so all I want you to do now is just put your fade line in. This is the shape I want you to follow. So maybe what you start, okay, good. So just for now, just do that. Don't go on to the next phase until I come back to you. And then you go back to Mark and the other one. How are you guys getting on? Okay, what are you struggling with anything, Mark? Oh, that's a little bit too heavy there. Okay, well, I would do this. You would do it now. Let's have what you're doing it. Good. Okay, you happy to carry on? And then you move on to the next one. So you just give them little bits of your time, but just to show them that you care about what they're doing, you care about helping them, but also show them that you have the trust to allow them to flow and you're not like watching every single thing they're doing, because everyone needs a chance to learn their own little ways. Do you know what I mean? It's good to have a structure and a process, but some people just apply things a little bit differently, but they get the same outcome. That's fine. I don't want it to be sort of one rule fits all. That doesn't work in anything in life. So allow them to flow and, and leave them make mistakes. Because the only way you can learn is through experience, and you can only get experience by making mistakes. So once they've made a mistake, go tomorrow. Right, okay, so what do you think may have gone wrong here? Oh, I think I took that bit too high. All right, okay, so how do you do that? Or I didn't put the right guard on. I took the clipper up a bit. I got a bit too carried away. Okay, well, at least you know that now. That's fine. Doesn't matter if you've done it, as long as you know what you've done. So you know to improve on that and correct it next time. And just keep giving them that interaction. And then, if you need to step in to help them tidy it up a little bit, step in, help them tidy up a little bit. But also allow them to have the freedom to express themselves. Because that's the only way they're going to develop. If every time they're about to do something, you stop and I'm going, oh, wait, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong. They're going to start thinking, this is not for me, I'm not good enough. But allow them to do it wrong. Go, all right, okay, so what do you think happened there then? No, I think I went a bit too high. Good, well done, because now you know what not to do. They're automatically feeling like they've done something well. Even though they've messed the person's hair up, they've taken the fade too high, but because you're complimenting that they've realized and acknowledged what they've done wrong, they feel like, oh, I've learned something. And they're still feeling positive. So you've got to just allow them to flow. Whereas if you're only telling them stop and wait, whereas with the newer person, like the apprentice, they may need you to stop and guide them and direct them because it's new to them. Do you know what I mean? So there's no one way that fits all, but I would structure the courses: a hearing at the start, 1 hour, a seeing demonstration, 2 hours, 1 hour break, and then book off another 2 hours for all of your barbers then to apply their skills on a customer or a mannequin head or whatever topic you're working on. And then at the end of the day, try and give yourself half hour just to discuss it, just to ask them how they feel, what they thought, what was beneficial, what they still may be struggling with, and just allow them to have a voice. It's not just about you telling everyone what's right and what you're good at. It's allowing them to express themselves and discuss. And that's what will help them grow the most. Do you know what I mean? Because they feel like they have a voice to learn. So that's how I would structure the courses. So to find out what course to do first, and like you mentioned when we had a catch up, is you want to ask your barbers what they want to learn and what they want to improve on. But you can sit down with them and get them to guide you, because then they will feel then that they're really involved in this. And that's really beneficial for your staff, because it's important for them to feel they're a part of something rather than just being told, oh, we're doing this week, we're doing this next week. They don't want to feel like kids again. They don't want to be in school again. Do you know what I mean? So we sit down with them, have a 20-minute coffee and say, right, guys, I want to do this. And I'd like us to focus on one topic a month. And I want us to sit down and follow this structure with hearing, seeing, and doing. So I'd like to hear from you guys. And I want us to all decide together what topic we should start with. And maybe say, oh, let's put a 4-month plan in place. Let's all pick 4 topics we want to improve on. And then we'll all decide together which one is most important. So they may say like skin fading, long hair, pattern work, and beards. So you all guys, you need to sit down and go, right, okay, well, which one do we do the most? Well, we do skin fades the most. Okay, well, let's get that fixed first then. Let's focus on the skin fades first, because we use that the most in a barbershop. So number 1 course coming up at the end of the month, skin fading, right? And we all agree, all happy skin fading, yeah? Fantastic, great. So what do you think is the next most important that we do the most in a barbershop? Oh, we all think we probably do beards quite a lot. Okay, so we all agree beards is the next course? Right, okay, fantastic. Beards and shaving, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we've got pattern work and long hair work left. Which one do you think we can gain from the most out of these topics? Well, we do one long sort of scissor cut a month or whatever. We do have a few kids asking for patterns. Okay, well, are you able to do them? Well, not really. No, I feel out of my depth. Right, we'll do patterns first then, because it's more likely kids are going to ask for patterns. And we'll do the long hair last. And we'll see how we get on. And we'll follow this 4-month process. And at the end of it, we'll have another catch up. And we'll see if we want to go back on any of them and go over it again, or if there's something new now we want to move on to. And that's how I would structure it, and allow them to guide you on what they want and need. But because you're not going to be able to give them all individual sessions, you're going to have to do it together to make it efficient and effective. This is why it's important you get them all to agree on what is most important, and agree on which one you're going to do next, for instance.
Yeah.
And then in the course, then, just like I mentioned, you start off with the best candidate, and then you move on to the weakest last, and then you just go back and forth quickly to the best ones, and you spend your time with the weakest one, touching them and best ones back to the weakest one. So you're still giving your weakest one a little bit more freedom and a little bit of trust to try and carry on without you shadowing them, But it's just finding a structure. And if one finishes a lot earlier, and you're really happy they work and they're really strong, but you've got 2 people still needing your attention, you ask that one then to go to the weakest one and go, do me a favor, you go and shadow him and guide him on anything he needs, and I'm going to spend a bit more time here with Kate, for example, and then you use each other then to support each other, and you also build the team as well as improve the team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how I would go about it. And just because maybe one of you is fantastic at skin fading and the other one is not, that's not to say that the better fader isn't going to learn something. Do you know what I mean? Or at least be refreshed on something. Or they may just gain from using their knowledge to help someone else. Either way is still beneficial. So if you have got someone that goes, I don't need to come to that course because I'm really good at this, then you need to sit down and go, well, look, this is why I'd like you there. It's not just because I want to teach you stuff. I understand you're good at it, but I can also use your ability and your experience to help the other ones. And then they start feeling wanted and needed again, and they take that pride away a little bit. Even though you've made them feel good about themselves, it takes that pride away of, I don't need to do this, I don't need to be taught. It's like, no, guys, we're a team here and we're all helping each other. So I'm sorry that I went off on a bit of a rant there, but that's how I structure my courses, and that's how I go about this. So I'm going to pass this back over to you. Let me know what you think and ask me as many questions as you want.
It sounds very content. I think the timings as well, because I think this was what I was worried about, was if I was to start, I like the 1 hour theory at the start, because I mean, one of the training, was it the last training session? I think the last training session I did was purely theory. So I designed a customer service course, and I sat them all down in front of a whiteboard and just went through that. There was no cutting. It was just that. But then
before you carry on, so what response do you get from that?
Brilliant. Yeah, really good. I mean, there was a lad that was working for me at the time who was notoriously not very good at engaging with training. Just, I'm happy with our cut. I don't really want to learn. It's really hard to engage. Really annoying, because I think, well, I'm trying to invest in you, so
yeah,
give it back. Like I'm taking you out of your daily job in order to help you, so give it a bit back. But thankfully, none of the staff I've got at the moment are like that at all. I mean, Katie was one of the ones that's at the moment. She was on that course and she was great. She was sort of answering questions when I was asking them back and getting involved, which was brilliant. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. So I would probably do that again, even if she was in it, because the other 2 weren't with us at the time, so they'd benefit from it. But I think putting the hour of theory in at the start is definitely, I could definitely see the benefit of that. I'd never thought of that, to be honest, because I think you just think, right, we're going to do a skin fading demo. Let's start doing the demo instead of actually laying down how it's going to happen first. Because I think if you lay it down there and you put down the structure and you kind of you talk about what you're going to do or draw it on a whiteboard or whatever, then you go on to the demo where you go through it again. By the time they get through to the point when they're actually applying it, then they've been through the theory in their head, they've been through it in person visually, and then they do it. Whereas if I just kind of show them and then throw them onto a model, I can definitely see the benefit of doing that first. Plus, it chills everyone out a bit. If everyone's sat with a morning coffee and you can sit down and go through the theory first, and it just gets everyone's brains going before you just put a pair of clippers in the hand. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Good, definitely
good.
The demo, I think you're right when you say about obviously I know you're gonna have to give people free haircuts. That's just how it is, isn't it? I suppose you can't. It's not something you can do on dolls' heads really easily. Long hair maybe, but in fact, you probably would have to do long hair on dolls' heads because struggle finding blokes with hair that long. But
exactly. So what I was saying was making sense as well, wasn't it? You can see the sort of popularity. Yeah, good. Yeah. So free haircuts, unfortunately, but
yeah, that's how it goes. I'm doing that with the apprentice at the moment. It's absolutely fine. It's it's kind of a reward for the person giving the time, I suppose, isn't it? So it's kind of gives us value as well. So the demo, I think. Would you say about 2 hours for the demo?
Yeah,
that'd be about it. Yeah, and then an hour lunch.
Obviously,
and then...
now you structure it based on what's in front of you. If you're just doing, I don't know, a demonstration on styling hair, then you could probably within 30 minutes you could do it and talk about it quite effectively. But obviously, if you've got to do a skin fade, a scissor cut, and style the hair, with talking and everything in between, it's going to be at least an hour and a half. I would say so. If you're doing an OAP's scissor cut, and all he's literally having is a bit off the ears, a thin out, and a shape up, and you can normally do them in 15 minutes, then do it in 45 minutes just to give yourself enough time to talk through it, Yeah. But look what's in front of you, look at the course you're doing. If it takes you an hour to do a long head layered scissor cut, then use 2.5 hours on the course. So just set it up based on what's in front of you. But I would say for your popular styles, like your skin fades, your tapered hairstyles and things like that, you want to be doing about 2 hours to be safe.
Yeah, that's like you say, it does depend what you're doing. Like personally, I do quite a lot of hot towel shaving, and I really enjoy it. And Katie, the lass that works for me, she's done it before because I taught her when we used to work in a previous shop. But she, in between working for them and working for me, didn't do it in the shop she was in. They just didn't do it, so she kind of went a bit rusty. So she needs a refresher. Mark's done it before, but again, he'll need a refresher. And obviously, the apprentice has never done it, so that's one where you can follow the same. In fact, it's probably more important with the theory side as well to follow the same system. But I reckon you'd probably need more time definitely on the application side anyway. Like give them the time to do it because obviously there's a lot more involved, isn't there? So I think you just like you say, just tailor it to what it is that you're going to teach them. If it's something that's fairly simple, then knock a bit of time off. But all of that, I mean, there was just adding it up there. You soon see a day off before you're done. I mean, it might not be a full like 8 or 9 hours or something like that, but it's still a good day, isn't it? I mean, even if you have a slightly early finish, it's like what I didn't want to do is say, right, we're going to do skin fading, or we're going to do shaving, or we're going to do like long hair, or beards is another one, which because everyone seems to struggle with beards when they first start, because a lot of academies or things, I don't know, I never understand why, but it seems like everyone struggles with beards. So I think if you just went in the morning and said, right, we're going to do beards, and then just started throwing beard models at them, I think you're going to miss out on a lot of important stuff, and you're going to be done by lunchtime because just
and it's going to be no different than any other day in the shop, basically, except you're watching them.
Yeah, so exactly.
This layout hopefully makes them feel like they've got a structure that they're actually following that is educational and not just another day in the barbershop,
Yeah, that's exactly what I don't want it to be. I want it to feel like a relaxed day. I don't want it to feel like they're under pressure and scrutinized and getting hammered. I want it to feel like a lot more chilled out than a day in the shop, because it's not very often. And this is one of the reasons and one of the other reasons I want to do it is because it's not very often that you get to just step back from behind the chair and just take your time, all the time in the world over doing something and really looking into it and learning it, which, I mean, I'm like that as well. Is sometimes where somebody gets in the chair and you think, I wish I just had 2 hours just to do your hair, because I'd just really slow it down and just do this, that, and the other, but you don't have the time. Whereas this, you do, and I want to make sure that that's how they feel. I don't want it to feel like they're hammered and they have to get it done within 20 minutes, because what's the point? You may as well just be cutting in the shop with me, just one doing it on the chairs looking at you.
Exactly. They may as well just be brushing up behind you. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then obviously the do-in stage. And how do you feel about how I would structure that? Is that something you can fit into your routine?
I think so. Yeah. Again, it makes sense to make the weaker one the focus of, or more the focus, and obviously the ones that are better to because that was, yeah, you kind of answered at the end as well when I was thinking, well, what happens if the apprentice is going to take longer? It ends up with they're finished in 30 minutes or whatever it might be, and then the apprentice is still going, and it's like, what do they do? But like you say, you can bring them in on it. They're not all going to be doing different speeds. You can keep going back to them and then bring the stronger ones in to try and help as well, and then teaching as well, them helping will probably help them to learn even more because they're going through the process
Absolutely.
again. So yeah, again, that makes sense, definitely. And it also
Okay,
answers the
so
question of how to cater to different abilities on the same course as well, which was something that was bugging me a bit.
yeah, don't like mix it up. Don't think, right, I need to focus on beards for this one. I need to focus on fading for that one. And so you're doing too much. Just one subject and just focus on that and do it to your absolute best of your ability. Don't worry about trying to cover everything else. But in a full, if you get a customer in who's having a skin fade and a haircut and a hairstyle, you're covering 3 or 4 topics then one. And if they've got a beard, then in your demonstration, fade it into the beard and do a quick beard tidy up. There's no harm in giving more value in your demonstrations and things, if depending on what's in front of you. But don't go splitting the course up into different subjects. Get them all to agree on which one we're going to do first and what we're going to do, and then structure it and just stick to the topic at hand.
Yeah.
So has that helped?
Perfect. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. I think that's the structure is exactly what I was lacking. It's I think I was knowing the subjects to do and knowing how to teach them, but not knowing how to put the course together, how to put the day together and how to make it so that they'd actually get something out of it, and it was relaxed and it was actually in a way that it would make sense. Like, so with the theory and setting the scene and the structure and then going through into the demo that way, it was, how do I just start with the demo and go for it? But I think having the structure in place, will definitely help me and probably help other people as well to get it right. Otherwise it just
explain to them why it's structured that way. Explain to them, the learning process starts in hearing, seeing, and then doing. So today we're going to be doing hearing first. This is why, and this is what we're going to be learning about. And then you talk about it. And then the doing, I'm going to be demonstrating. So you're seeing. So then you go into be seeing what you've heard and then doing what you've seen. And that way, then you're going to get the most out of learning. And then you learn up to 80 to 90% of the topic. The last 10% only comes with experience. You don't learn 100% of the topic in one course, but you can learn a good amount of that subject, and then it just comes down to experience then for you to perfect it. But you can learn a heck of a lot in the course just by seeing, seeing and doing, but also explain that to them in the theory at the start, rather than just saying, okay, today we're going to be talking about skin fading, and we're going to be doing it like this, and this is the skin fade. No, explain to them, look, guys, I've structured the course like this because of this. Because it's be better for your learning. I'll be asking you lots of questions rather than telling you lots of information. So if you wonder why do you keep asking me that question, I'm doing it because it will allow you to remember your answer better, because you've had to find the answer yourself rather than just me tell you. So if I just tell you, you've got to try and remember something you've heard. But if you give me the answer because you've had to think about it, that's already in your head. You don't have to try and hold on to that then, because you created it. You made that answer. But if I'm giving you the answer, you've got to try and hold on to that because it's only a noise. It's not something you've created yourself. And when you give them the psychology of it, they'll already be in awe. They'll already be like, oh, wow, it's amazing. So then they're invested in doing it that way then, because they're knowing I'm going to be finding the answers for myself. And they're going to feel really fulfilled when they do well. So throughout the day then, because you've told them you're going to be asking them questions, they're not going to feel awkward when you do. And though in the moment they may feel on the spot and someone else is there watching, but say to them, it's okay, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm only asking you because I want you to really dig deep and see if you can find the answer yourself. The process of thinking is what I want you to do rather than give me the answer. So they don't feel like they can say something wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think agreeing on a subject, so I'm just writing as you said there, just agreeing on subjects, because I think that was the other thing I was not 100% sure. I can probably pick out things with each of them that I know are maybe a weakness, and myself, to be honest. But I think getting them all to agree on something is definitely helpful, or like a selection of things, and then kind of think, right, well, if we've got 3 or 4 things, that can be 3 or 4 months worth of courses. that makes sense as well, because at least then you've got a bit of a plan and everybody knows what they're doing as well, instead of just me turning up on the day and suddenly realizing that's what they're doing.
Brilliant. Oh, I'm good. I'm glad you've taken that from that. Okay, well, look, you've got my time. I'm in no rush to go anyway. Do you have any other questions? Do you have anything you want to talk about? Is there something that you I don't know, whether it's business, whether it's advertising, whatever. Fire away. I'll be more than happy to help.
Put on the spot that I should have written some questions down, shouldn't I?
You weren't expecting that, were you?
Tell you what is interesting actually. When we've talked, when we're having a catch up at the start, I know you were saying about your new pop up and things like that. How do you get the staff to do that? That was interesting. I know you have your trainees and things like that, but obviously, if you were going to, not suggesting that I am, but just since you were talking about it, how do you go from? Because if you've got staff in a certain shop, obviously the staff are needed in that shop, and I personally, where we are, especially when you start going more rural than what we are, we're on the edge of the Yorkshire Dales. And I live in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales. So finding staff isn't brilliant compared to if you move a little bit further south into Leeds and things like that. But how would you get the staff? Would you kind of take staff from existing shop, or would you try and recruit them fresh into that shop? Just find it interesting how you kind of grow the staffing team to kind of, if you decided to open a pop-up shop, how would you then find the staff to cover it, really?
Okay, so I've done both. So I've had shops where I've seen potential in the area. So maybe I've seen a location that was a good location. It'll create a gap in the market because maybe all the other barber shops are walk-in shops and they're in the city centre. And I've seen one maybe just out of town that's attached to a gym that's got free parking. And I think it'd be a good location. And I think I'd like to invest in that location. So my first option is, let's have a look if there's any really talented barbers in the area that's not self-employed that may want to be, who's employed and not maybe getting an opportunity to kind of progress, for instance. Okay, so I have approached people. That was early doors. I don't tend to do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. But I know barbers that do it, and I have done it in the past. So I've just reached out and said, look, your work's really, really good. If you're happy where you're working, great. If you think it's time for you to move on and become self-employed, I'm going to set this business up here. Do you want to be a part of it? If 2 or 3 of them say, no, I'm happy where I am, great, no problem at all. Well, if I don't think then that I want to put my time there to make it work, I'll leave it go. If 1 or 2 of them say, yeah, I'd love this opportunity, it'll be great, it's exactly what I'm looking for, I've got a good clientele ready to go, I just need the business model, which I haven't got. So then I would open a shop for them in that location, put them in the shop. I'd maybe work there 1 day a week just to see if they're doing the things the way I'd like it to be done, just make sure they're speaking to customers correctly, just make sure I am happy with their work. You know, maybe I'll just point them in, tweak a few things and point them in the direction in a few areas. And then once I'm happy with them, I leave them there and I move on. And maybe I'll only touch base once a month to see how they're getting on. And I'll allow them to run it like their own shop. So I've done that. But the majority of my barbers comes through training. So because I teach it, and I think it helps that because I've won a few awards. If people do look me up and they see I've won awards, more people want to learn from me. Do you know what I mean? Which is helpful. So, you know, in my area now, if anybody says I want to become a barber, they say, oh, go and see Math. Go and see the barber coach. Do you know what I mean? Straight away, like it's just a thing now. So that does help me because I'm inundated regularly with people saying, can I become a barber? Can I become a barber? So I would allow them to come and train and learn in the shop, watch. I make them all volunteer. I say to them, yeah, if you want to learn to be a barber, no problem at all. I get paid to teach. So, but I'm not going to charge you. If you want to come and work in the shop and brush the floors and watch us for a couple of weeks and volunteer, and at the end of standing on your feet for 10 hours a day brushing floors, you still think you want to be a barber, then we'll sit down and I'll train you. And maybe out of every 6 trainees, 2 or 3 stick it out and the others like, oh, it's not for me. Once they start sticking it out, then I think, no matter what age they are, do you know what I mean? And I start thinking, yeah, this one's got potential, this one's learning, this one wants to learn. Then I'll invest in them a bit more than whether I put them on an apprenticeship or whatever it is I need to do to structure it.
At that point, would you generally put them on an apprenticeship, or would you kind of just like get them to? Because I know some people like myself, I'd put our apprentice Will. He's on a proper apprenticeship where obviously we pay his wages and train him through a proper system. And then I know other people who would ask for money from the trainee, so they'd get them to put a few thousand up front, and then if they work for them for so long, they'd get it back, or any like that sort of system. Which, like, how would you normally do it? Would you normally take them on as an apprenticeship, or?
Yeah. So it all depends on the age, basically. So say they're under 18, you can get a lot of. I know what it's like in England, but in Wales, you can get a lot of support. They pay for their training and things. They've got this thing now, which is like Jobs Growth Wales, and they pay the trainees like £80 a week, and they also pay to put them on an NVQ in a college, and then they work with me like 3 or 4 days a week. And if they work, and I say to them, look, you get 80 quid a week from the college, but if you go above and beyond and you help us out and you work hard when we're busy and you don't just stand around like a student, you actually show us you're a part of the team, I'll top it up. And maybe I'll chuck them a bit of cash at the end of the weekend to top up their wages. But I want them to realize they've got to work for the rewards, you know. But they still get 80 quid a week, even if they just turn up and sit down, because that's what the college is given to them. And then once they get to the point then that they start cutting, and they say charge maybe £5 a haircut. But mine, at this point now, I would then allow them to keep the £5 a haircut. So they feel like they're really reaping the reward, sort of thing, you know. But I'm not paying them any wages. They're only getting paid through the £80 a week from the college and the grants. I'll only top it up if they've really gone above and beyond, you know, or I'll let them keep a couple of the haircut £5. Do you know what I mean?
They'd be in college normally 3 days a week or so, would they?
So they'd be in college 1 day a week and they'd be with me 3 days a week.
Yeah.
So you're 4 days a week, you know. They'll do 1 day in college, the rest is with me then. And then if they then say if they like 18 to 21, you see potential in them, I would give them an apprenticeship. But with us, again, there's grants. You give someone an apprenticeship, you get a grant, and if they finish the course, then you get another grant. So though you get a little bit of help towards paying their wages, and at the end of it, then if they stick it out and they qualify, you get more help then, which basically covers all the costs. So there's that. If they're like 18 to 21 and they need a bit more than just 80 quid a week, for instance, you know what I mean? So they'd be on, depending on how old they are, whatever the going rate is for apprentices, you know. But what I do a lot of, someone who's older than 21 who wants to learn barbering, I always say to them, go and get a job in a different shop first. Go and work in McDonald's, go and work in Tesco, go and work in Domino's, and just get used to facing people. Because a barbershop is very intensive, interactive, close proximity service. You're going to be having a lot of deep conversations, one-to-one conversations. You have to be comfortable people facing. So what I would say is get a job doing anything else in a shop, so you're getting used to speaking to people. Yeah. And then volunteer with me in the evenings, and you can brush the floors, and I'll teach you for free if you brush the floors. But bear in mind that I normally charge if people want to learn barbering. I get paid to teach. But if you want to work in my shop and I see an opportunity for them, so say now I see an opportunity, say a chap is from, I don't open my shops too far apart either. The one in Newquay is quite far apart, but that's one because I've moved down here. But all my other shops are sort of within 6 to 10 miles apart. So if I see then an apprentice who has potential, and I think, right, okay, well, he knows a lot of people from that area, 10 miles down the road, I'll train this one up, and then I'll open a shop there and put him in there. Do you know what I mean? And that's sort of, I look for potential. Do you know what I mean? So this apprentice, and he may volunteer with me in the evenings, and then he'll start cutting hair in the shop in the evenings. I'll oversee what he's doing while I'm cutting. I won't give him too much of my attention. I'll allow him to learn for himself. And then once he's then making money from the haircuts, then he normally quits his job then in Tesco and then just focuses on the barbering. And then maybe a year in then building a clientele in barbering, I'll say, right, do you fancy opening a shop down there with me? So it's like a franchise to me. So I'll open the brand, I'll open the shop, I'll put the name on it, I'll get the website set up, and I'll put the structure in place like a franchise. And then they pay me a rental from that shop every weekend, see?
Yeah.
So that's how I structure mine. So if I've seen a gap in the market in an area and there's barbers there that I could potentially get on board and work with them, I'd approach them. But if I see potential coming through my trainees, or I see potential in someone because, you know, he's been brave enough to approach me and ask me to teach him, you know, he's happy to work a day job and come in the nights to volunteer, you know, this guy's got good work ethic, I want him on my team. Then you spend time then on developing and growing him, and you say after a year, look, I think we've got potential in this area. I think there's a market there. Would you like us to invest in a business there for you? And then you move out there and you use your trainees to move to other shops. That's how I do it.
Yeah. At what point would you start paying them an apprentice wage? Because obviously, if they've been in, say, if they've been coming in for 2 or 3 months and they've been sweeping the floors, they seem keen, they've gone to college, and they're with you, say like 3 days a week and college 1 day a week. At what point would you have? I know you have to kind of sign them up, and if you're going to get the MBQ at the end of it, the college give them that. At what point would you be expected to kind of have them as an official apprentice, where then you have to pay the apprentice wage?
Yeah, I'm quite flexible. Obviously, you've got to be realistic with the finances you've got coming in. If you're a new barbershop or you've been going a year or two and you're not flat out, don't go thinking about apprentices.
Yeah.
Get your chair fully booked first, because then when you've got an overflow of people, then you've got a chance then to train up an apprentice. Because if you've got an overflow, then they've got people to work on. But if you're still waiting for business to come in, don't look at getting apprentices to start with. So I would only really entertain an apprentice or a new trainee if we were so busy that I knew that we needed it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't just give everyone an opportunity for the sake of it. My barbers would probably argue with that, mine, because I got people in there training all the time. But realistically, I've turned people away just because we are too busy. Do you know what I mean? But if someone, I have got a soft spot for someone approaching me, say 15, 16 years old, they've approached me, they've told me what they want to do, they're happy to work hard, and they come and show me that and they work hard, then I'll invest in them as quick as I can. So as quick as they're ready to leave school, I'll give them an apprenticeship or a traineeship or whatever their age group fits into, you know? If someone's mother approaches me and says, "Oh, my son is 29 and he wants to be a barber," I'm thinking to myself, right, well, he's not going to be a barber in my shop because one, you phoned me to tell me your son wants to be a barber, and two, he's 29. You'd be surprised how many people phone and say, "Oh, my son, he's only 22. He wants to be a barber, but he's wondering if you can help." I'm like, why hasn't he messaged me?
Yeah.
So if he's not man enough to message me for an opportunity, I can't have him facing customers in the shop.
See, I'm glad this is one of the things that, because I came from a hotel background, so my family had a hotel, and I've talked to people from being a little kid, and I think I've seen, I'm not obviously not going to drop any names on it, but I've seen like even people that are classed as really top barbers. And when you actually see them in a course or a demonstration or something, like, you can tell that they've no idea how to actually just have a bit of crack with somebody. Like, it's all very formal, and it's like you've never actually you've concentrated so hard on the actual art of cutting hair and the section and whatever else it is you're trying to do, but to actually talk to you, like, I don't get the impression I could sit and have a beer with you at all, because it's just not there. And I'm thinking, like, that's such an underrated part of the barbering industry that, I mean, I'm like you were saying before with apprentices, like, that's our apprentice Will. He came to us really keen out of school, and just it's turned into so far he's been an absolutely brilliant apprentice and really investable, so we're chuffed with him. But I have had people before as well who've done exactly that. They've sent their mum in, they've sent they've come in like this, like, "Hi mate, if you just wondered if you got," it's like, well, you're gonna have to sort that out first, because if you don't sort that part out, I'm not going to teach you how to cut hair. And like you say, we've had older people in as well. We had one lad who said, "I'd like to learn how to cut hair," and didn't seem that fussed. So, "Well, have you thought about it for a while?" He was like, "Well, no, I've got a couple of years free, really. I'm wanting to go, like, to America for a bit, and it's like, so basically this is like by the time you get good at cutting hair, you're going to leave. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever." So I'm glad you said that, because it driven me mad. And I think how to speak to people, and like just being able to just be normal with people and to speak to people, it's such an underrated part of barbering that I think nowadays it's so everyone focuses on whether your fade looks good, how your Instagram looks. Just have a bit of crack with people. That's what it's been about from the start. And I've never understood how hard it is. I think if you don't want to do that part, you're in the wrong job. It's like being a pub landlord. If you can't talk to people, don't open a pub, because you'd be very embarrassed.
Yeah, you're right. I've had barbers work for me who are unbelievably gifted with ability, couldn't speak to a customer, and they'd be dead. And I've had barbers work for me who are 6 out of 10 at best, but they can talk, they've got a good atmosphere about them, a good energy about them, and they're fully booked.
Yeah, people want to sit in the chair, exactly.
That's one thing I always teach to any beginner or anyone that wants to learn. Yes, we're going to learn a subject and we're going to learn how to cut hair, but more importantly, if you want to be successful, you need to learn to communicate. And if you can't communicate, then it's pointless learning to cut hair.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the motto moving forward. And I reckon that if you're a good person, a nice person, a trustworthy person, a fun person, someone who's brave enough to communicate, someone who's got good energy, and you always mess someone's hair up, there's still a good chance they'll come back because they like you.
Yeah.
Or you give someone the best haircut in the world, we don't say a word to them, and you make them feel uncomfortable, they're not going to come back. Yeah. So always focus on presence, communication, and presentation. Always.
I think finding some common ground with them as well. I mean, like, I've got quite a few different interests myself and stuff, and I think there's usually something where it might be something that you know about, or you've got a bit of an interest in, or they're from, if they're visiting the area, that you've kind of been to that area. It might be, I mean, obviously football's the obvious one. Like, you talk to people about football all the time, have a bit of banter about that. You talk about outdoor things, about anything. Just try and find something in the conversation that you can latch onto that you think, right, they're into that. Even if you're not that into it yourself, I find that helps to kind of get things flowing. And then they might still not talk to you. I mean, we know some people just don't like to talk at all, do they? But sometimes it's people that are quite quiet, but then you can just bring them out of the shell a bit by finding that little thing that it is that they wouldn't mind talking about, and they're like, oh yeah, and then you're away.
Exactly. And it's also been able to read the situation as well. It's also been able to read that when they may want to just be quiet, or when they feel like they've got a lot to say, then that you're not interrupting them and you're allowing them to speak. It's been able to read that situation. Whereas, like you said, if someone comes in and he's like this and he can't even look you in the eyes, then how are you going to be able to read a situation when you've got a customer in your chair?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, and that's how I filter through my trainees, basically. If I'm rammed and all my barbers are fully booked, then I will advertise for a trainee and I will interview a few and give a few a trial. And if I think someone's good enough to invest in, then I'll set them up on the apprenticeship. But what I'm finding at the minute is we're all rammed, we're fully booked, we've got loads of trainees signed up, and I've still got people messaging me saying, can I come and learn? Can I come and learn? And the ones who are like, mum's messaged me, I'll be like, unfortunately, we've got way too many barbers on board. There's no room at the minute. I'll let you know if something comes available. But if a young lad messaged me, I made him following you for a while. I've cut my dad's hair a few times. I really want to be a barber. Can I come and brush your floors and learn from you? I'm happy to volunteer. I find it hard to say no to those guys.
That was me. So the guy, our apprentice, he basically said he'd been into a hairdresser's because he'd wanted to work in hair, and he'd been into, I think he knew someone who had a hairdresser's. He'd been in there, hung around, not massively keen on hairdressing, and was really interested in barbering. And I kind of let him just come in the shop and have a chat with us and things. And yeah, I thought I liked the fact that his parents were nowhere to be seen. Obviously, I've met them since, but they were nowhere to be seen. He came in himself. He did it. He'd actually gone to a shop because that's what I was early 20s when I started, and that's exactly what I did. I kind of messaged loads of shops across the north of England and just said, "Can I just come and stand in your shop and watch? Like, I'll sweep the floor for you." And one messaged me back and ended up going there quite a bit and work experience, and it was brilliant because otherwise, how are you supposed to know what it's like to do the job? You can't train and then find out, can you? You kind of need to know straight. You need to get a bit of an idea whether you like the environment or not first.
Yeah, I'd always invite someone down for a trial, or an experience day. But I'll say, well, look, a lot of people have messaged me wanting to become barbers. It's not as easy as you think. It's harder than you think. It is very rewarding if you stick at it, but it's not as easy as you think. So when you come down for the day, I can't pay you anything. You're more than welcome to volunteer and brush the floors. I will see how you feel at the end of the day, and then maybe we can discuss something moving forward if you think they have potential. And it's going to go one or two ways. They're going to hate standing up holding a brush all day, but I won't then. I think trainees think, or new barbers think, they're going to start in a barber shop and then they're going to instantly be shown how to hold a clipper. As soon as anyone comes into my barber shop who's agreed to volunteer or to come on board, would be, right, there's the brush. Let's see how long you can stand on your feet for before you start crying.
Yeah.
And they will be on their, and I won't let them sit down. And they'll be on their feet all day. And I'll be honest, I'm saying, look, I know this is horrible. And I know you're probably bored and you think it's your shit and you want to be able to cut hair. But our job is basically being on our feet all day, bent over awkwardly, getting covered in hair all day. So if you can't comfortably stand there holding onto a brush, then how are you going to stand all day leaning over a person in the chair, cutting hair? Yeah. So I make them realize, look, this is the first part of your training. If you can stick it out for a couple of weeks and you still keep coming and you work hard and you brush up without me having to ask you to at the right times in the right way, then I'll invest in you. And then you see then quite easily who wants to stick it out and who don't. The others start getting a bit lazier, they start sitting down more, they text, I can't come in today, and right, that's out of the question. Others then, no matter how awkward you are, they keep turning up, they keep brushing the floors, they take the bins out without you asking them, they're wiping the mirrors down, right, this is one I want to invest in. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's just how I do it. But I'll always make them volunteer first, and I'll always make them just stand there with a brush. Yeah. And if they stood on their feet for 10 hours with a brush all day, just watching me cut hair with hardly any interaction with them, because all my energy's going to my customers. At the end of the day, I say, like, what was that like for you today? Oh, yeah, I was right, yeah. Do you want to do it again? Do you want to stand there holding a brush again? Yeah, I'll come back. Okay, sound. Now we can do something with this. As soon as they go, when am I going to start cutting? I'm going to go, sorry, mate, it's not for you. And it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Holding a pair of clippers and having to talk at the same time, and it's better than, it's a bit different to holding a bush, isn't it? But then they should still know how to hold a bush even later. I'm a big advocate of that as well. It's like cleaning the toilet, sweeping the floor. I'll still quite happily do that myself. I don't expect them to ever think that it's acceptable to not ever be in a position where you're doing that anymore. So you kind of like, but if you can't, like you say, if you can't hold a bush from the start, it's going to be a struggle, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not really worried about the brushing skills. I'm just worried. I'm just watching their shop mannerisms. Are they picking up on conversations? Are they interacting with people as they come in? You know, is he standing properly, or is he slouching, leaning against the wall? Is he a lazy person? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is he brushing up just because he can see something needs to be cleaned up? I'm watching their mannerisms. I don't really care about their brushing. I haven't got them there just to brush up after me. I'm actually watching everything they're doing to know, can I invest in this guy? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But once I'm happy with someone, and I think there's an opportunity for them, one thing I don't want to do is see potential and waste everyone's time because I don't want them to go somewhere else. If I think that, you know, we're up to full capacity in this shop, there's no room for anybody else, I could say to the guy, look, I think you've got potential. I could train you up, but I can't guarantee that you'll have a job here because it's fully staffed. But what we could do is, once I'm happy with your cutting and you're comfortable and you think you're ready to sort of branch out a little bit, I'd like to invest in a business somewhere else that you could run for me, or I'd like to invest in you in another location. And if they say, "Oh yeah, I'd be keen to do that," then you've managed them as you mean to go on. You've given them the expectations at the start. Do you know what I mean? Rather than them thinking, "Oh, I may get a job here one day," and then you say to them, "Oh, I'm going to open a shop down there. Can you go down there?" Well, it's too late then. Tell them at the start, "Look, I don't think you're going to work here, but I'll happily train you if you'd be happy if I open a shop there and you go and work there." Then if they agree to that at the start, you're not going to be disappointing them then when you say, "Right, it's time to open that shop." You know, so that's how I would invest in growing the business then.
So on that, like with growing, and obviously if you were to open another shop for them, and this kind of falls back to what I was saying before about us needing a bigger place sometime soon, which is obviously a good problem, but the other obvious problem is funding that and to being able to. I mean, obviously you could have capital, but then it's like when you've, how would you go about thinking, right, well, I've got to set that business up, because obviously it depends on the size of the shop. When you set it up, it might be quite a small one, like a one chair. It might be a bigger shop. Like, how would you kind of, if you had an idea to do it, how would you start thinking, right, this is how I need to get the finance together for opening this up?
Okay. So I'm a huge believer in start small and build it up. I'd never chuck money in a business that I don't know is definitely going to work. I'd never do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think like, oh, there's a great opportunity in that area there, I'm going to spend loads of money in opening a shop and hope people turn up. No. People come for a haircut. As much as the shop needs to look good, and as much as it needs to be impressive and convenient and practical and clean, they come to have their haircut at the end of the day. You don't need much to give someone a haircut. Do you know what I mean? So spending 20, 40, 50 grand on a business when you don't know what the business is going to be like is business suicide. What I always do is find something small in the area that's cheap, easy to tidy up, as little cost as possible, and then maybe work there 1 or 2 days a week as a pop-up shop and advertise on social media in that area, maybe get in touch with a couple of businesses and say like, oh, can I, so for instance, so I'll talk about what I've done here in Newquay. So I've moved to Newquay, I've seen a gap in the market and I've gone, right, I've got a massive shop in I've got a very big shop in Ammerford. I got a good busy shop in Llanelli. I wasn't planning on opening a shop in Newquay, so I don't know if I want to work here full time forever because I've got other things lined up. So I'm not going to chuck loads of money at it, but I can see a gap in the market. So I'm going to test the water. So I know if I increase my hours in Ammerford 2 hours a day, it's going to be a bit harder. You know, I'm working, say, like 11 or 12 hours now instead of 8 or 9 for 3 days a week. So then I've worked an extra 6 to 8 hours in those 3 days that covers me then for going. So if I don't make any money in another shop, I've still made the money back in this shop. So I work on a bit more here to give me then that free surplus income. So when I go to work in Newquay, if no one turns up, it doesn't matter because I've made the extra money back in my Ammerford shop, for instance. So what I did was I increased my hours in Ammerford for 3 days a week. I reduced the day and I increased the hours of the days that I was there.
Your days, or all the stuff, or just yourself?
Just mine.
Yeah.
So then I advertised in Newquay that I was opening a shop. I got in touch with the local football team there. They have a changing room facilities. At the end of it is like a big kitchen, dining room sort of thing at the end.
Yeah.
There was loads of space in there. I thought, oh, that'd be a great location because it's out of the hustle and bustle of the town. It's got free parking directly outside. And so I just got in touch with the Newquay junior football team. I said, oh, look, you know, new barber in the area. I'd like to sponsor your football team. If I was to make a donation towards your football team, is there any chance I could potentially rent that room off you 1 or 2 days a week? And they came back and said, oh, yeah, we'd be more than happy to. It doesn't get much use anyway. So if you pay towards electric and you're happy to make a donation towards the juniors, you can use that room. So now I've got a room fully kitted up with electric, heating and everything. It's not posh. It's not kitted up to look cool. The paint on the walls is the same paint on the walls that the changing rooms are painted. Do you know what I mean? I haven't made it look fancy. I've put a mirror in there. I've made it look clean. I put a mirror in there, a tool station there, and a chair, and a couple of waiting chairs, 1 or 2 trees, so it looks a little bit nicer. And I got 2 pop-up signs that I take out and bring in. So the cost on setting that shop up has been very, very cheap. Like less than £1,000 on all the equipment, like signs, everything. And I just pay them like 60 quid a month electric. I don't even pay them rent because I made a donation to their football team of £500 for the season. I've got that shop now every month for free. All I have to pay towards is electric. So I don't just look at shops in a town centre. I look at rooms in places that I could use, because I know then if I market it well enough on Instagram and Facebook and get in touch with the right people to help support me, run a little competition, pay for a promoted ad, I know I can get people talking about this quite quick. Now, I've already sponsored the junior football team, so they will promote me on their social media. I'll then offer to give all their football players a discounted haircut. And then they all start talking about it. So by 2 months into me opening up this random pop-up shop in Newquay, I'm not even from the area. I've moved here. No one knows me here. No one knows that I've won awards. Nothing. I'm just a new little barbershop who's popped up in a football changing rooms. People are like, what the hell? This is mental. But because I've targeted the right people, I've made the right investments, if it all went tits up, it's hardly cost me anything. And I haven't really lost much wages because I'm working the hours back in my other shops. I'm working a lot more hours. It does take, you've got to sacrifice something. You've got to sacrifice time or money. It's as simple as that, So that if I see an opportunity, I'd sacrifice my time. I'd work more hours to give me more surplus income. So then when I do go to that shop, if I make no money, it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? But all of a sudden, people are booking in, and then they're telling more people are booking in. Now I'm thinking to myself, people are asking me, when are you opening a shop? It's so busy. Kids are approaching me. I want to become a barber. Can I come and train with you? It's already caused a massive thing in the area. And now I'm like, right, I've got a choice to make now. Do I now invest into this area properly because I know there's a demand here? Or do I just keep doing what I'm doing? Or do I step away from it? I've closed shops down. I've had one shop that was really successful. Then it got a bit quieter and it got a bit quieter. 2 barbers left. They started competing against me. I put another barber in there and I was working there 2 days a week to keep it going. And we were keeping it going. We were still making good money. But the barber but my Ammerford shop was really busy. And the barber that I had in that shop, I knew that if he moved to Ammerford, his customers would follow him. So I thought, well, I may as well go back to my Ammerford shop. I may as well move him back to my Ammerford shop, close that shop, save myself the rent and make the same profit or make more profit, make the same money. Yeah. So I've got no pride in keeping shops open. If I don't like it, I'll just close it down. I've done it 3 times. I've opened 6 or 7 shops and I've closed 2 or 3 shops, no problem at all. So in Newquay now, I'm at the point that I'm like, crap, if I wanted to here, I could open up a whole new franchise, put barbers in there. I know a barber that works in my Ammerford shop that lives halfway between Newquay and Ammerford. So he'd come and work there 2 days a week. I could work there 2 days a week. And we could potentially then train people up. In the next 6 months, they can be full-time barbers there. And now I'm at the point where I've got to consider this now. Do you know what I mean? It's either like I do it now or I just don't, or I stop because I realize it's not what I want to do. So, but if it was dead and I was just taking over, again, a couple here, a couple there, I'd probably then just not do it from the shop, give those guys my number and just say, look, these are my days off. If you want a mobile haircut, let me know. And I'd go around their house. If I think there was only like a handful of people that wanted me and it wasn't growing, I'd just close the business down and walk away from it. This is why it's important you don't chuck a lot of money in at the start. So many people would think, I think it's a great opportunity to put a barbershop in Ammerford town centre. Let's chuck 40 grand at it. And then they haven't done the research. There's already 3 like multiple award-winning barbers in the area. All of them had worked for me. All of us won loads of awards and they went out to open other shops. So there's 3 multiple award-winning barbers already in the area who have all been trained to a really high standard, but you may have seen a gap down the road and there's a shop up for rent for £1,500 a month. You thought, I'll put a barber shop in there, and you haven't got a clue what you're up against. So you're better off finding a little salon in the area and go, can I rent a chair in your salon 1 day a week? And then you advertise in the area, new barber in this salon, renting a chair, 1 day a week, available 1 day a week, book online, here's the booking app, do the social media and see what interest you get. And if they start telling more people start booking, and right, I can build something here now, I might as well look for a room somewhere or something small. I always start really, really small, test the area, test the waters, see what interaction I'm getting from people. And if I think it's got a potential, I'll invest in it. Then I'll look at putting money in once we've already got a clientele coming through the door,
Yeah, that's it. I think it's good. I mean, like I said, that wasn't like In the future, I don't know. I mean, I've never ever said that I wouldn't like another shop at some point, but at the moment, I've got so much trade where we are that I feel like I need somewhere bigger. But that kind of it does lead on to the same thing. There's no point me like opening another shop, which is obviously going to be a higher rent if it's a bigger premises, especially if it's in the same sort of city centre area, to then think, right, I'm going to take out a 30 grand loan and make this shop look like something out of London. And then next thing you've not only have you got higher rent, but you've also got a tens of thousands of pounds worth of loan to pay back on top of obviously already higher bills. And I just think like even if it wasn't necessarily getting another shop, it's still good advice to think, well, actually, you don't need as much as what you think you do. Like I've got an existing shop which has good fixtures and fittings in, a lot of which I could take, or most of which I could take, or repurpose or something like that. I've got other bits and bobs I could use, and there's ways of doing it without having to blow a fortune on it. Because I mean, yeah, if you've been open for years and years, you could maybe borrow a bit of money, have a big refit if it's successful. But I think that's the thing is it's when you flick through Instagram or magazines and things and you see certain barbershops and they look absolutely, they've clearly had a lot of money spent on them, a lot of money. And you think like that, it's kind of, you could do it and it might work out and it might be brilliant and it might pay off. But like you say, it's a big risk, isn't it, to just go and blow 30, 40 grand on a big shop refit and just think, well, I think it'll work.
Yeah, exactly. It's not worth the risk. It's not. People. A lot of people do it for pride, not for profit,
Mm.
and that's just business suicide. You know, if you're not making profit, it doesn't matter how good your business looks or how big it looks. You got to make money out of it. So let's have a chat about your shop then. So why? So I'm gonna ask you a couple of rolling questions here now. So like, why do you feel you may need a big location? Is there not enough waiting room for customers? Is there not enough room for your barbers to work effectively? What is your reason for wanting to move?
Both of them. So at the moment, we've got three chairs. One of the chairs, the shop's kind of in a bit of a triangular shape, really. It's kind of it's in an arcade of shops, and it's kind of on a corner. So it's kind of the shop is kind of a corner. So you've got two, like a right angle, and then like a kind of diagonally cut off section. And the chairs are at one of them ends. So like two of the chairs are fine, but then the other one is kind of it's a bit tight to get round, and there's not quite as much room. And the workspace we've got, ideally, I'd like to space the chairs just a little bit more because I feel like by the time we've got a few tools on and things, it just gets a bit cluttered. It's fine, it works well, but I feel like we're kind of really utilising the space we've got as much as we can. There's not that much waiting area. There's enough seating because with us doing appointments, it's not like we've got 8 people waiting like we used to have when it was walk-ins. We don't need loads and loads of waiting area, but we don't have space for things like I'd like to put a coffee machine in, just something people can help themselves to. But there isn't anywhere I can put that safely without kids grabbing hold of it and things. Space for the barbers themselves as well when they're not cutting. So the back room we've got is probably not even a meter by a meter square room. If not even that, like you wouldn't be able to lie down in it, and not a chance. And it's just a toilet and a sink. That is the staff room. When you've got 4 staff, it's just not enough. And then we've kind of one of the waiting area. I got my best mate who's a joiner to build in like some seating with kind of box storage underneath it, so we could sort of put our bags in there. And then, but yeah, open that up, and it's just got our bags. It's got the mop bucket. It's got the Hoover. It's just feel like we've kind of crammed as much as we can into that little space. In the back room, above the toilet and everything, is a big shelf with like spare hairspray bottles and yeah, it's got to the stage when it's kind of creaking a bit and. I feel like, especially with the apprentices as well, we've only got 3 chairs and now we've got 4 staff, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because the plan was to take him on and look at a bigger shop before he gets qualified, which is obviously still the point, so that I can then move into a bigger shop with more staff. Which again that's definitely the plan, and hopefully that'll work out. But it just feels like we need a bit of room to breathe. It's a lovely shop, it's in a great location, but it really is starting to creak a bit now.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked you those questions was that if it's just a case of that, you know, you're really, really busy and there's just a few too many customers cluttering around, then the first bit of advice I'd give is put your prices up. Best advice I ever had was that if you're fully booked a week in advance consistently, you're too cheap. So a lot of people say like, "Oh, I'm so busy, I need to go to a bigger shop." Well, actually, you probably just need to put your prices up first because you get a lot more profit out of what you've already got. But based on what you're saying, it does sound like, you know, it's uncomfortable a little bit now. Do you know what I mean? And if you are that busy that you think it'll be a better service to your customers to move to a bigger location, then I would definitely consider it. But you're in a really, really strong position because you're already established and you're already very busy. So there's a very good chance that 80% of your clientele is going to follow you no matter where you go. So you don't, just because you want to go bigger, that doesn't mean you have to spend more money. So you don't have to go into another city centre barbershop. You could look maybe 5 to 10 minutes out of the hustle and bustle of the city and maybe look at a unit somewhere. Because my main shop is an industrial unit. Big garage door at the front, big shutter door. I open that up in the summer. It's like an open plan shop, right? But that's cheap because it's just an industrial unit. Whereas if I had a shop that size in the town centre, it'll cost me 3 times the amount. Now, if you're starting off and you want to be recognised and you want to make a name for yourself and you want to be noticed, then you have to be more visible in some cases. Luckily for me, I'm good at social media and I got a good social media presence. So I was quite quick at building a clientele, but I was happy to chuck myself around the town a bit. I offered to help out coaching places. I got in touch with I got involved in a few things in the community so I can start getting a feel of people, taking the kids to school, start chatting to parents. So I got a feel of things before I chucked money into the area that I knew was worth doing it. But if you're someone who wants to open a shop in the area, you're not from the area, but you want to invest in the area, then yes, it would definitely help to be in a visible location where passing trade can say, oh, have you seen the new barbershop, or we could go there. That definitely helps. You're now in a position that you've already got a big clientele. You're not starting from scratch. Most of your clients will follow you. And I guarantee you, if you go to a location that's a bit, not rural, what's the word, a bit less hustle and bustle with better parking and things, they'll be grateful. People think city centre ones are going to be the busy ones. Be surprised if your clientele was a different clientele passing through all the time, it's a different business. If your clientele is booking back in, you're getting regulars coming back to you, they will come anywhere you go in the 10-mile radius. So you don't have to necessarily go looking for a city centre shop with big glass windows that everyone's going to see you walking past. You don't need to do that now because you've got a booking system and you've got a database. So because you've got a database, you can give them information without them having to walk past your shop to see it.
Yeah.
So you could have a look at using maybe setting up a concession. So that is like opening a shop within another business. So say there's a local gym that may have a big room available there. You could rent that room and put a barbershop in the gym. Well, you're going to get passing trade there and free parking and marketing from the gym, advertising from the gym, potentially customers from the gym. Do you know what I mean? And it could potentially be better for your customers who want to go to the gym after the haircut. Do you know what I mean? You're working with another team. That then would work out cheaper because they're already paying the rent on the place. They're already paying the rates on the place. They're already paying electric on the place. So all you got to do is just give them a bit of help towards their bills by renting that room.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily have to be a big city centre shop. Look at industrial units outside of the city centre because the industrial units are big, spacious, with free parking, and they're normally a fraction of the price of a city centre shop. If you were starting off, I would say it would be harder and it'd be more risky to go somewhere more hidden or secluded. But because you've got a clientele, you're already busy, you can go wherever you want on it. You don't have to look for bigger and more expensive. You can look for bigger and cheaper because you're still going to get your customers turning up.
Yeah.
So I definitely would consider looking at a bigger place. But that doesn't mean it has to be a shop in the city centre.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just really consider that. You'd be surprised how much money you could save from it. And it made us busier when we did it because it was unique and it was different. It offered so much more convenience that a lot more customers came. So I opened a shop and then I took on a little apprentice and he followed me around and he volunteered and he brushed up after me. And then I took on another shop and I give him a chair in there. And then I watched him develop and grow and improve and started getting better. And we needed a bigger shop. So I found another location that we moved into and I could put a third chair in there. I brought another trainee on, trained them up. All 3 of us are like really, really busy. I looked then for another location, with a 4th chair in there. But because I got a clientele now, I don't have to necessarily always get bigger and better. I just need to get more convenient. So find a location that's more convenient and it's got more space. So I went to a shop with 4 people, and then the lockdown came, and then we had to think about like social distancing and things. And in the shop we were in, it just wouldn't be convenient. So I looked at shops for rent in the area, seen this big industrial unit for like half the price I was paying, and I just thought, yeah, I'm going to put a bit of money into that industrial unit. I know I've got the clientele now that I can do it, so I put a bit of money into it, cleaned it all up, painted it all up, made a big song and dance on social media, and it's been absolutely inundated. So we've now got 6 stations in there, 5 barbers permanent. Just like their chairs, only them that uses their chair. And then I've got another chair then that 2 different barbers work on different days, alternating on that chair. And I got 3 trainees coming through. I've opened a shop in Llanelli. We've got 2 barbers in the shop in Llanelli. And all that has grown since I opened a barbershop in an industrial unit. And it was just so unique. 'Cause when the summer came, the shutters were open. And because it was just after COVID, people felt safer because there was more fresh air circulating in the shops. So big, massive shutters. Because it was different, people loved it. They told more people about it. Now we are all fully booked all the time. And I'm training up like loads of members of staff thinking, where am I going to put these guys? Do I open another shop or what? Do you know what I mean?
Do you find that the extra, because obviously the only problem with not having a walk-in, clearly not affecting you, obviously, but the only problem with not having a regular walk-in past trade like you would in a city centre shop is obviously getting you, is if you wanted to get busy, if you've got a bigger unit and you wanted to attract new people, do you find you get a lot of that through social media and just being present on there and letting people know that you're there through your marketing?
Yeah, social media. Facebook is really good for a local area. Instagram is better for like a younger clientele in a broader area. But I'd also get the person who's a trainee on their social media during the day, putting things up, going £5 haircuts with me today or free haircuts with me today, just to get people coming through the door. Like, you know what I mean? Then I would share his posts. If someone came in and said, "Oh, if there's someone heard about us and came over, any chance of a haircut," I'd offer them to the trainee. Or if we're fully booked and people message and I say, "No, when can I get in? I'm fully booked. Your guys are fully booked. I can't get an appointment." I'd say, "Well, our trainee's doing £5 haircuts. You're more than welcome to jump in with them, and I will guide them through it. I'll oversee them as I'm cutting my clients' hair." But social media is probably your only option if you're in a shop that's not got a lot of passing trade. Social media to start, and then long as you're focusing on convenient, good quality service and good haircuts, word of mouth will do the rest.
Yeah, makes sense. That's it. Yeah, especially kind of well, it's not like a massive city centre. Like I used to work in the centre of Leeds, for example, and that was there was one or two regulars, but a lot of it was people just in Leeds for the day, for example. Like it was not, you didn't have that many regulars. So in that sense, it was just, you're literally relying on just people walking past and calling in. But if you're in a town, like I'm sure even Newquay probably is a little bit like that, where people generally talk and people know each other, and there's like with a football club as well, people will talk to each other. And when even parents at a junior football club, they're going to speak to each other, speak to their friends, and before you know it, it's just this kind of ripple effect of the brand, isn't it? So that does make sense, yeah.
Good. Oh, fantastic. Well, mate, I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else I can help with now before we call it a day?
No, that's absolutely brilliant. Thanks, mate. Yeah, that's really, really helpful. Yeah, great chatting. It's definitely made me think about a few things. Like some of them are stuff which I'd thought about, but maybe not in that right way, in the same way. And other ones are completely fresh. So yeah, I really appreciate it. Cheers.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you a quick favour now. And so just as we draw this to a close, I'm going to just tell anybody that could be watching that, we met through my online training platform. You've signed up to the Barber Coach TV. So the Barber Coach TV is an online training platform that I have developed to bridge that gap between beginner barbering and working in the real world, in the real shop. I taught in colleges, and I found that students were learning and getting qualified and learning the basics in college, but then when they were going to the barbershop, they were way out of their depth. And I just thought I needed to create some sort of system that's going to hold people's hand, help them through every stage of their barbering career, and support them with the development. So if anybody's watching this interested in learning barbering, you're more than welcome to sign up for the Barber Coach TV. We've got a 12-month package, just discounted rate, or you can just pay a monthly subscription. And if it's not for you, you can cancel at any time. But you use the Barber Coach TV. What's your thoughts on it, Josh? What can you tell anybody that could be watching?
I think from signing up to it, the thing that became very clear quickly was the fact that it's designed at just working barbers. And I think this is what I've struggled with other platforms before. Like I've signed up to other platforms for the barbers, and I've actually been on some quite well-known like face-to-face courses as well by quite big name barbers. And I think what comes across a lot of the time is that what they're teaching is good, and they're obviously very, very good at what they do. But the reality of actually using that day to day in a shop is very little or non-existent, or you have to kind of distill it down to the bits where you think, well, I'm not going to be able to do that daily in a shop, or if I do that, I'm going to be taking an hour over it, and I'm going to need to charge a lot more. And people are just not going to want that in an everyday shop. And I feel like there's a lot of that, and not so much somebody just going, "Look, mate, I'm a barber in a town with a shop as well. This is what I do. This is how to do it well, but also actually make money out of it and not take 2 hours over a haircut." And I think that's what I've got out of it most, and that's I think that's what a couple of people I've talked to that have signed up for it as well. That's what they've got, is it's just aimed at people who are actually doing barbering for a living. It's not like Instagram cutting. It's obviously wants to be good quality haircuts, which it clearly is, but it's aimed at helping people to better themselves within the actual barbering industry, which is, credit to you, mate. It's not often somebody's done that. I've not actually found one before yours. So you've done a great job with it. I think other ones are teach you to do good haircuts, but it's just applying that in an actual shop environment is not always easy. Whereas with the stuff you guys are teaching, like yourself and Sean and others, it makes a lot more sense, and you could see exactly how you could apply it from the video that you're watching straight into work the next day. So I think from anyone starting out with obviously the ones that you did before, kind of the beginner barber courses up to the ones that are clearly designed for actual barbers, all of them are helpful. And I think even for me teaching the apprentice, I kind of went back into the beginner stuff and had a look through that, because I mean, I know it, but it was maybe a different way of looking at it, a different way of explaining it. And I think just looking at that helped, because I could think, well, yeah, that's how I do it, but I kind of like that way of explaining it, or even just use the way I did it, but then add another bit to it. So even looking at the beginner stuff helps as well. So yeah, just designed for people who are actually doing the job is the best way I can describe it.
Mate, that means the absolute world to me, because that's exactly why I've created it. Barbering may look cool. If you're a youngster starting off, you want to be a barber, you may look cool, it may look trendy, but at the end of the day, it's a business, and a business is about making money, and it's about serving clients. You know, if you want to set up a barbershop to be a famous Instagrammer, then you're in the wrong industry. You set up a barbershop to serve people, and through serving people, you get paid for it. So I just felt the Barber Coach TV is realistic, is relevant, but also efficient, and you're actually going to be able to follow it in the real world. Whereas, just like you said, I've worked with other guys who do fantastic artistic work. You're never going to apply it, and I'm just all about real, down to earth education and being realistic. To actually don't do like that. I don't care how cool it looks, but doing it like this, you can save loads of time and still make it look as good, because you want to be able to get people in and out with an efficient amount of time to give them a good quality haircut, but without them getting their bum dead because they've been sat in the chair for an hour and a half. You know, it's finding that balance that's going to be rewarding and realistic, and that's exactly why I've done it. So the fact that you've taken that from it means the world to me, because that's exactly why I wanted to do it.
No, definitely. It comes across as well like you guys are on like you've not tried to be kind of a level up from the rest of us. So like I think with some of the others as well, like maybe the Insta famous ones or whatever you want to call them, I think it very much feels a lot of the time like I'm here, I'm at this level, you're here. I'm going to teach you this because I'm at this level and you're not. So this is how, and it's like, well, come on, like end of the day, I'm grafting away cutting hair in a shop all day, and you're spending a lot of time on your social media, and it's like you're clearly very good at what you do, but it's kind of making me feel like I'm a million miles off. And it's like, all I want is help, like to be able to fix a specific part of my cutting, or to kind of gradually build my way up. And even though the people are generally very good at what they do, I just kind of feel like it sometimes comes across as a little bit demeaning, when all it is people just want to be working together to help each other. Like I'd quite happily help people, and I feel like that's how it comes across. So yeah.
Oh, mate, I really appreciate that. Well, look, Josh, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate this conversation, because I can use this and on my platform to help other people. So if I've helped you, I'm over the moon, because that's what I'm in it for. But if anybody else can learn something from this as well, then even better. So thank you very much for your time, mate. Stay in touch. If you need anything, drop me a message, and we can carry on this conversation in private if you're cool to do that.
Perfect. Absolutely. Thank you very much, mate.
No, thank you very much. Speak to you soon, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Take care.